So for my restoration, I decided to go with this design simply because this is very easy to make, since I don't have any workshop, and the only power tool that I used during this restoration is the drill. And these half spheres as rivet heads would be very easy. And also this handle is made from buffalo horn, which is easy to find and easy to work from what I hear. This is the other side of it, so I decided to go with this design, and for that I bought these handle blanks on eBay, and I just bought 4 pieces just in case I mess up some of them. So this is buffalo horn. The size is 6 inches by 1.5 inch, which is exactly what I needed. And I also bought these earrings online, and these are made from silver, and they have this brass wire around them. So I decided to go with silver and brass because these are the materials that were used by the masters back in the day, and they're very universal for these kind of handles. So I bought these earrings very cheap online. They were $15 or something, and these are made from silver, and they have the brass wire going around it. A funny thing is, when I bought these earrings, my girlfriend saw them first and she decided it's for her, and I had a big explaining to do when I tried to explain that it's not for her. So my advice, if you're buying any female jewelry online for any of your projects, make sure to tell your girlfriend or wife beforehand, because otherwise there'll be a long explaining to do if you didn't tell them, if you didn't let them know upfront. And I'm going to cut these clamps at the end, and just this will be the semi-spheres for my handle, and also for the middle rivet head. As I noticed in all of the photos that I saw, the the middle one is different from these two, because it either differs in form or shape or size, so somehow it's different. And when I was looking online what to buy, I came to this silver um, button. They claimed it's for wallets or belts, you can use for whatever, and I really liked it. It's a little bit smaller than my semicircles, and it has a different shape on it, and it's 925 sterling silver, and it has a cross on it, which some would say is not proper for an Islamic weapon, but I say who cares. I like it and it looks good, so I'm gonna use this one for my handle. Also, I bought these rivets. These are called knife makers rivets. I like these ones because these ones will go one into another instead of just me hammering the ends into shape, because with my rivet heads I won't be able to do that, because that semicircles and the button are going to be on one side of the rivet, and if I hammer it, I'll just smash them. So these ones are easier to work with and they're really good. So I bought 10 pairs of these just in case. And also I bought this brass list, which will be the insert for my handle. As you've noticed in the photos, most handles had some kind of either file work or some kind of Koftgari on the side of the handle, on the blade. Mine doesn't have anything, but I didn't even want to do some file work on mine because I'm not gonna alter the blade in any way. But there is this technique when they put a brass list and they do a file work on the brass list and they put it under the handle material, and it looks really cool. So I bought this brass list for that purpose, and this is what I'm gonna start first. So I cut it into shape using these scissors. This is metal working scissors. They'll cut through any kind of metal. And I just put my handle and made an outline and just cut it to the shape, and then filed it using uh, little files. And also I did the file work on the sides. I just filed notches and on both of them using these little files that I had, and that's it. I'll show you how it looks after it's done, and I put both of them together and file them together, so I'll have a symmetrical file work on both sides, even though they're going to be divided by the blade handle, but still I like the symmetry in this thing. I also soldered the rivet to my rivet heads. These are the earrings. I cut the clamps, as I said, and I filed the back of it and just soldered them together. And I used a simple torch. I didn't think this torch would do the work, but it did fine, and it was really easy. Just put my rivets on the rivet heads and use the little silver solder, and it worked like a charm. So I also soldered this part for the middle rivet, and this one was a little bit tricky because it had a bolt in it, and first I tried to solder without the bolt and I couldn't do it because the hole was too big for it to hold, and the traction point was not enough. So I soldered the bolt in it first, and then I soldered the rivet on the bolt head, which I ground a little bit. And this is how supposedly it would look like. I put all of them together and it looks neat. So it's time for the horn handles. So I did the simple outline and made the holes that would match on the buffalo horn handle blank. And this is what I got after the first day of work: 2 brass handle pieces and 3 rivets with the heads soldered on them, and 2 buffalo horn blanks with the outlines and the holes already done. And I'm just making sure that everything is matching, and I put everything together and put the rivets through, because this is really important step. You don't want to start cutting your handle blanks and then finding out they don't match. So this way, just making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. I also marked the handle blanks by scratching them because I didn't want the markers to be wiped off when I was working on it and just lose my outline. So I just did a little bit scratching, and for that I tightened it with the bolts so it will be exactly where I want it. And this is how my marker, permanent marker, and scratching looks like. I also marked the brass lists with an X in this one and a 0 on the other one, because these differ a little bit in their shape, so one side is different than the other. I didn't want to mix them at the end when I'm done. So this is how they look, and it's time to start cutting it. So I put them in a vise, and first I tried to grind them using my file, and after a couple of strokes I figured that it's gonna be very hard to do that, and it's gonna be very time consuming. So I decided to cut them with this little saw that I have, which has really fine teeth, and this worked. It went through the bone like a knife through butter without any complications. And for deeper parts I just made a V shape like this first and then cut using my saw, and it was not a problem. I was probably done with both of them in like 10-15 minutes. Just did the simple shape and just made sure that I don't cut very close to my outline, because I wanted to leave a space for me to work with the file and just to make sure that everything is done properly. So just always leave some space between your cuts and the actual outlines, not to ruin the handles. And then I ground these handles using a file. This one has very big teeth, and the important thing to remember when you're working with this kind of file is don't use a lot of force when you're working, because then you would leave I call them scratch marks on the other side, because it will just break instead of filing them. It will just rip them. And then you can use a different file with smaller teeth like this one and just finish the filing process. For that I put these two pieces together so everything will be symmetrical and they will align properly when installed on the blade. This is what I'm done, and I'm just measuring it again with a brass list brass pieces and together with the handle. It's time to put them together. I decided to use a JB weld to attach the brass pieces to the handle. Uh, Originally there was some kind of adhesive used for the same purpose, and I think using a JB weld is the best option, even though the original dagger of course wouldn't have JB weld, but if the ancients knew about JB weld, I'm sure they would use this one instead of anything else. I didn't want to go and find out what kind of adhesive they used to attach the handles to the blade on the first place, but the purpose of that is to prevent any water or dirt going under the handle and ruining the blade from there. So just putting JB weld on the handle piece, making sure that I put it exactly where the handle is gonna go. And this one is a quick set, so it's gonna be set in 5 minutes and it's going to be cured in 4 hours. I attached the brass pieces using some 8x32 bolts and nuts, and to hold them in place very tight, and just leave it there for 4 hours till it will cure. And here you can see the file work, how it's gonna look on the handle, and it looks neat. Right now you can see all of it, but I'm pretty sure when I put the handles on it, it will look really good. In the meantime, I took my handle and made notches around the holes for the rivet. As you remember, I soldered the rivet heads on the rivets, and the rivets, they have this flat part on one end, and so I wanted them to go flush with my handle. So I made the notches on both of them, and this is how they're gonna look, all flush, and they're not gonna protrude from the surface. And now is the time for sanding. So I took a really coarse sandpaper and sanded the whole thing all over just to get rid of any scratches, marks. After that I took a finer sandpaper and just worked it till I couldn't see any big lines or any scratches on the handle at all. And as I said, these buffalo horns are really easy to work with. It's easy to buff them by hand. I used some buffing compound and put it on a leather belt and just worked it till I could get the handles really shiny. And after that I just put everything together and carefully hammered my rivets in, and just put some softer material on the heads of the rivets so I don't smash them when I'm trying to hammer this in, and it looks good. And I put a little bit JB weld in between the buffalo horn and brass, and also I put a little bit of JB weld where the rivets went in. Everything will be very sturdy and nothing will move. This is how the final product looked, and you can see the file work on the side. It looks really neat and beautiful, and it has brass and silver and buffalo horn, which are the original materials used by the masters who made the sword, and it looks really good. And also what I found out after I was done, this middle rivet head, which doesn't serve any purpose really and is just protruding where your palm should go, the reason for that is in the heat of a battle, when you're wearing a glove, you always want to make sure that your edge is striking the enemy, especially if you have a single edge. So this middle rivet head would press against your palm and always let you know which direction is your edge, so you can just, without even worrying about it, you can just strike your enemy and use the sharp edge to kill, so to say. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the Turkish Rayatagan restoration video coming up next.